Hey everybody, this is the video explanation for the first part of Lab 11, Esterification, and this lab is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be split into two parts. So the way that I usually do things in the lab is I use this lab as kind of a culminating lab practical, because the lab itself is pretty straightforward to carry out. It doesn't have any tricks or anything like that, so it's a really nice lab to see how well students can kind of do their own do their own chemistry. That said, obviously this is the digital version of this lab, so you won't be able to do that, but that doesn't mean that we haven't built to a certain point doing things digitally. And part of that is being able to write and recognize chemistry well, and so that's what we want you to do. So the first part of this lab kind of simulates what you would be doing if you were doing chemical research. Okay, and so the first thing that you would have to do is find a reaction that you want to carry out. And once you have that reaction that you think you want to carry out, you need to research it and figure out how to actually do the lab. So I guide you through that process here in this first part. Okay, I give you the reaction of benzoic acid and methanol reacting to form methyl benzoate. This is called an esterification reaction because you're taking an acid and converting it to an ester. Okay, it's a very common reaction. So in terms of its rarity in finding this is not that. Okay, so that's something that you'll have to pretend it's a reaction you're doing for your for research, and you're not going to be able to find a procedure. You have to come up with your own procedure. Okay. That said, off the record or on the record, but not. There's a million different versions of that, which also can be just as daunting. If there were just one accepted procedure for this reaction, then that would also be kind of straightforward. But because this is such a common reaction, there's a million different versions of this reaction. So doing the research to find the one that fits this, or making up one that fits this, is also important. Okay, so like you've done in a couple other labs, I need you to look up physical constants, molar mass, density, and then source those numbers so that we know where they're coming from. And then I need you to do the math, the stoichiometry of the reaction. One of the things that I think gets lost a little bit in organic chemistry is doing the math in the stoichiometry. It's not that it's not important, it's just that organic chemistry focuses on mechanism and making compounds, and there's not as much focus on the math. So here we're going to really focus on the math in terms of making the benzoic acid. So the assumption here is that you want to make 21.8 grams of methyl benzoate, and that the reaction is 80% yield. So you have to figure out how much methyl benzoate would be made if it were 100%, and then convert that to moles, and then convert moles of methyl benzoate to benzoic acid. And that's going to get you how much benzoic acid to start with. And then you want to calculate how much methanol you're going to use, and you're going to use a 518% excess of methanol. Okay, and so you're going to base that 518% excess of methanol on your answer in the previous question. How much benzoic acid are you going to start with? Well, you want to start with 518% more of methanol. Okay. And then the last thing you're going to do is determine how many moles of concentrated sulfuric acid are going to be used if you're using 4 milliliters. Okay, and all of this information is taken directly from the supplement. Okay, Professor Sherlock's website has all this information in it. I just am asking you questions where the supplement is just kind of goes through the process. Okay, it's a slightly different format. Okay, and then you're going to take all those pieces of information. When you calculate moles, you're going to have moles of all of these compounds, and you're going to put it in here. So you're going to figure out how many moles of benzoic acid and methanol and sulfuric acid there are at the beginning. And then when it says moles here, you want to know how many moles of methyl benzoate you're going to have at the end. So this box is going to be moles methyl benzoate made. And then you're going to want to calculate the mass or the volume, if it's a liquid, of each of those compounds. Okay, so once you have that, then now you can really go in and you can use the reaction and all of these numbers that you have to write a detailed procedure in paragraph form using complete sentences of how to make methyl benzoate, okay, from these three reactants, or 2 reactants and catalyst. Okay, so once you have that procedure, you're going to turn that in. So this must be turned in before you do part 2. Okay, now if you don't do part 1 and you do part 2, you can't get credit for any of it. So you have to do part 1 first. So it's like if you were doing research, you have to go find out how to do it before you actually do it. Okay, and so in this case, we're not giving you the procedure. You have to go look it up, and all of these parts help you help you in determining what that procedure is going to look like. Okay, and then so once you turn that in, whoever your instructor is will approve it. Then they don't necessarily have to grade it, but they at least have to approve it, meaning, hey, this lab is, the way that you have it set up is good. It's safe. It seems to have all the stuff down that you need. It has all the processes, how much, the amounts. It has reasonable units for each thing. It shows you the glassware that you're going to use and things like that. Okay, so once it's been approved, then you can go on and finish part 2, which is the characterization and some questions on the workup for this lab. Okay, so that's part 1 of the esterification lab, and I hope this helps out, and have a great day.